An arrest 4 decades in the making. A suspected serial killer is in custody in Ventura County.
Such heinous acts as these never go unanswered.
Imagine believing you've escaped justice for nearly half a century. Then suddenly your past catches up to you in the most unexpected way. After 47 years, a cold case from 1977 has been cracked.
While we cannot bring back Kimberly, Velvet, and Lorraine, we can make sure that the person accused of these horrific crimes faces in Ventura County the full weight and force of the law.
And the accused? A 73-year-old former truck driver who thought his dark secrets were buried for good.
He was, for the 1970s, 1980s, as well as the early 1990s, a long-haul cross-country truck driver.
But as this case proves, time doesn't erase justice. It just delays it.
Just because a case has gone cold does not mean it should ever be forgotten.
This is a case that shows no matter how much time passes, justice always finds a way.
He's charged with the murders of 3 women in the 1970s. He was just extradited from North Carolina.
Welcome to today's video, where we dive into a chilling cold case from 1977 that has left an entire community in shock. It's not every day that someone is arrested for crimes committed nearly half a century ago, but Warren Luther Alexander, a 73-year-old ex-trucker, now faces 3 murder charges for the strangulation deaths of 3 women in California.
Accused serial killer Warren Luther Alexander is back in Ventura County, 47 years after the gruesome murders of 3 women.
And here's the most unsettling part. Authorities suspect there may be even more victims.
The DA believes there are more victims because Alexander was a cross-country truck driver.
So how did this decades-old case finally break wide open? What new evidence led to the arrest? And are there more victims waiting to be discovered? Stay with us as we unravel the mysteries surrounding this intriguing and tragic case. Let's take a step back to 1977. In Ventura County, California, 3 women, all sex workers, were found strangled. Kimberly Carol Fritz, 18 years old. Lorraine Rodriguez, 21 years old. Velvet Sanchez, 31 years old.
Alexander is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. The deaths of Kimberly Fritz, Lorraine Rodriguez, and Velvet Sanchez. All 3 women were sex workers.
Their murders rocked the community, but despite extensive investigations at the time, the trail went cold. For nearly 50 years, these women's families were left without answers. Then in comes the modern hero of many cold cases, DNA evidence. Now we know what you're thinking. DNA in 1977? Well, yes and no. Back then, DNA was collected from the crime scenes, but they didn't have the technology to analyze it like we do today. It's like recording a mixtape, but not owning a cassette player until years later. The DNA sat in storage, just waiting for technology to catch up. And now, it finally has.
Due to advancements in technology, Alexander was linked to the murders through DNA. Alexander is being held in Ventura County Jail without bail.
Fast forward to 2023, the breakthrough year. Thanks to advances in DNA technology and a match with Alexander's DNA profile through a national database, investigators were finally able to crack open the case.
DNA made all the difference here.
47 years after 3 women were strangled to death in Ventura County, authorities say the suspected serial killer is now under arrest.
Imagine the relief of the detectives when they realized they were holding the missing piece of the puzzle that had evaded them for decades. It's crazy to think how DNA technology has evolved, right? What took decades in this case now takes mere days or weeks. So, if you're thinking about committing a crime, just know, even if you get away with it today, tomorrow's technology might have other plans. Now let's talk about the man at the center of this chilling story, Warren Luther Alexander. He grew up in Southern California and worked as a long-haul truck driver, traveling across the country. This guy drove more miles than most of us can even think. Imagine the things he saw on those lonely highways. Or maybe don't. because his story just gets darker.
He was, for the 1970s, 1980s, as well as the early 1990s, a long-haul cross-country truck driver.
Alexander was living a quiet life in North Carolina when the long arm of the law finally caught up with him. He was already facing separate murder charges there, so clearly we're not talking about a reformed man here. What's even more weird is that authorities believe there may be more victims, possibly in other states.
We believe there may be additional victims both locally and other states. This is an ongoing investigation, and we will continue to pursue all leads that become available. This is not in any way closed.
Alexander's career as a truck driver gave him the opportunity to move around unnoticed. So the next time you're on a road trip and spot a truck in the distance, just remember, not all long-haul drivers are delivering packages. As investigators dug deeper into Alexander's past, they started connecting the dots to another unsolved case, the strangulation death of Cassandra Lee Miller, found in 1975. Is it a coincidence that this case is strangely similar to the 1977 murders? Authorities don't think so. In fact, back in 1978, Dr. Robert Kornblum, the coroner at the time, even suggested that the murders were likely connected. So, if you've ever felt like you're living in a real-life episode of CSI, Ventura County is currently smack in the middle of it. And let's not forget, Alexander's DNA could potentially be linked to even more unsolved cases as investigators work with the FBI to see where patterns emerge.
Due to advancements in technology, Alexander was linked to the murders through DNA. Alexander is being held in Ventura County jail without bail.
Sounds like something out of a crime novel, right? Alexander's court proceedings have already begun. But here's an interesting twist. Ventura County District Attorney Eric Nasarenko has stated that they won't be seeking the death penalty for Alexander. Why, you ask? Time. That's right. Trying for the death penalty would take more time. And with witnesses aging and memories fading, they want to move quickly. Instead, Alexander is facing life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Right now is currently held in Ventura County Jail without bail.
And I mean, let's be real. At 73, he's probably not looking to join any prison sports leagues. Imagine being the families of these victims. You've gone almost 50 years without answers, thinking the person responsible would never be caught. And now, you get a call saying that thanks to modern technology, they've finally found the suspect. It's like finding out that the last piece of a puzzle you lost years ago has been under your couch this whole time. Relief, shock, maybe even anger. The emotions must be overwhelming. At the same time, this case shines a light on the power of science and how it can bring closure to cold cases that seemed unsolvable. It's a reminder that, in the end, justice does catch up, even if it's a few decades late.
Just because a case has gone cold does not mean it should ever be forgotten.
Now that you know the ins and outs of this case, what are your thoughts? Do you think there are more victims out there that haven't been uncovered yet? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you're fascinated by cold cases like this one, be sure to subscribe for more videos where we break down the latest in true crime stories and cold case breakthroughs. Remember to share this video with friends who love a good mystery, or anyone who might have driven a truck back in the 70s. You never know, we could be solving more mysteries together.